imagine like the majority of the content on the web within a year's time is going to be created by AI. So it's not going to actually be real. And I think things like podcasts are going to go up in value with consumers because it's human beings talking. It's actual human interaction. They're authentic. They help you build connections. You get underneath the skin of what makes people tick.
Welcome to PodJunction Podcast. I'm Sadaf Beynon, and this is the show where business leaders share how they use podcasting to grow, connect, and build their brands. So today's guest is Matt Anderson. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself for me?
Yep, sure. My name's Matt Anderson. I've been in the world of digital for about 20 odd years now, and I've grown and scaled agencies, Montage Communications, and then Marketplace Amp most recently, and that was scaled and acquired by Optimizon, which is my last sort of agency role as a chief strategy officer there. And as a part of that within the business, we ran a podcast called Ecom Insights, and essentially what I'm looking to do is now I'm working with Dragonfly AI. I've pivoted, exited. Is to launch a new podcast called The T, which is connecting e-commerce, brand, and AI, and where they meet, which I think is a really interesting space, basically. And a part of that journey is very much is sort of making me focus and build connections within that space, but also, you know, I think I've found the people that you meet. And it helps build collaboration and build your own knowledge, really. And it's something that I've done throughout my career, from a very early space. Really, is whether it's been podcasting or whether it was social media events, and back in the day, like Twestival, which I was involved with back 2008. God, well, that's when Twitter was a cool place to hang out, anyway. But yeah, so. Those kind of events have always been really great in building connections and meaningful ones rather than. So I think podcasting makes a lot of sense to me as an area to focus.
No, that's great. So Dragonfly AI,
yes,
is your new brand, your new role that you're going to be doing, right?
Dragonfly AI is a company that I'm board advisory for. It's not my company, but essentially, and Dragonfly is a visual analytics platform which allows you to audit and analyze content within 89.6% accuracy of the human eye. It's a patented organic algorithm,
right? So
it can actually show you which images, creative advertising is going to have the better share of attention versus other brands. So that can work in the digital space on like Amazon, for example, but also packaging on the shelf. So there's an app within the phone you can actually scan physical point of sale or packaging as well. So that's a really interesting space, really, and they're working with some really great brands like Coca-Cola and Reckitt and Mars Pet Care, and so it's a very innovative space, and that's relatively early days for me, but it's super interesting.
Yeah, you sound like you're enjoying it.
Yes.
Yeah, AI seems to really be changing the landscape for e-commerce businesses, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, I think I mentioned on Matt Edmondson's podcast as well that not just on internally within organizations, AI is changing the workflow, for example, but also from a consumer angle. We've all got an AI in our pocket on our phone now, and whether that's Gemini or ChatGPT, most people tend to use that. And consumers now are actually starting to use AI to research brands. For example, Rufus on Amazon is the native one that's being used. So if you're thinking about, okay, I need some bed linen, for example. Okay, well, what's the best for a hot environment? Which one's got anti-allergic properties? Which ones you can actually find some specialist uses of the product very, very quickly. And AI will be like think of it as like your personal shopping assistant, like you'd have in these high-end stores in London and New York, but it's in your pocket. So it's a great leveler for brands. I think less focus on the logo, as it were, but which products out there that's going to fit my needs and problems best. And AI will be able to find that for the consumer very, very quickly.
Wow, that's quite incredible.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anywhere that for brands to hide, really, because you can see what the effects of bad PR will happen with certain car companies like Tesla, for example, at the moment. Well, every corporate secret, every issue, every problem you have on a review will be analysed with very great detail using AI, so the consumers will be able to make informed choices faster. Yeah, so I think that's a great leveler versus some of the bigger brands. It means that smaller brands can actually use AI themselves to identify opportunities within a market and launch products very quickly. And it's something that I'm trying out with my own brand, which I'm in the pet space. I'm launching in Q4 as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And that's just been phenomenal. I mean, going back, I'm not old, but I'm not young. Is going back into the day and thinking, well, actually, like I would do for like clients and brands, it's like, okay, well, I need to get underneath the skin of the brand. I've got to really understand all the problems that are out there, reviews, what the consumers are saying, what the competitors, all those sort of things, what analysis, etc. Work that would take several days or if not weeks for a larger brand, I can do in an afternoon now with AI. Is actually be able to full market research. I think there's apps like Perplexity, for example, which is fantastic for market research. So I think that's some of the big brands, big organizations as well. They're tied down with their IT departments, frankly, locking, because large language models are great, like ChatGPT, but you've got to be very careful about what data you upload into them, because obviously then it's opening the Pandora's box that can be used by anybody. It can be surfaced by the AI as well. So
right,
a lot of large organizations have been being restricted for their use of AI, whereas
that's interesting.
Some of the sellers and e-commerce, the one-man bands, the smaller companies can be a bit more agile. But you've got to balance the technical issues as well, I guess.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating, really. So, Matt, tell us about this new podcast that you've got coming up. Did you say it was called The Tea, as in?
The tea, as in the gossip.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Well, I think because clearly I'm English, so we like drinking tea.
Yeah.
But I think, it's my daughter always talks about the tea, and I think it's just like the gossip about. I think like we're doing now is a bit about what's happening behind the scenes, and what are people doing, getting the inside track on how brands are using AI in the world of e-commerce, how that's affecting the world of agency as well. It's going to disrupt that as well massively.
Why did you want to add a podcast to the mix?
Well, it's like I say, throughout my career, I've always done lots of like collaborative events to build my network. And I think fundamentally, podcasting is great for that. You get underneath the skin of what makes people tick. It makes you build connections like we have today to be on the podcast. And so that's first and foremost, really. Also, I think, clearly while I am an AI advocate, I think one of the issues we're going to get in the world of communication is people are going to be very skeptical of content now. I think they already are. We all know what an AI video looks like. You only have to go through Instagram, and a third or fourth scroll, you're probably looking at an AI video at that point. And it's this whole concept of like the dead web. I don't know if you heard that before. It's about imagine like the majority of the content on the web within a year's time is going to be created by AI. So it's not going to actually be real. Within a year, I'd say. Wow. It's been my prediction. Already it feels like a good 20. I haven't got stats to audit the entire web, but it feels like a good 25% to 30% of the content I'm seeing at the moment is AI. Now it can be a good thing. You can create content really quickly within LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever. That's a good thing, but you still need a human to be able to monitor that content and make sure it's a good quality and it's adding value to those networks. It's adding value to LinkedIn or wherever it may appear. And I think going back to sort of your initial question about why a podcast is like, it's because it's real, it's human beings talking, it's actual human interaction. And I think things like podcasts are going to go up in value with consumers because, well, we're seeing it already, aren't we? They're hugely popular. But I think that's only going to increase in the world of AI until AI figures out how to make podcasts, and then we...
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's already scope for that if you do solo podcasts, right?
Yes.
And if you're doing audio only.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess
audio only. Yeah. And we've seen like user generated videos and audio.
Okay.
But I think humans are going to be able to spot that as well. But my point is that podcasts, it's that they're authentic. They help you build connections, and they'll go up in value with the consumer. I believe. I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, I absolutely agree. I think it's also, to add to what you're saying, it's also the element of the evergreen content as well. So it's, you can keep coming back to it. I mean, but having said that, maybe in the AI space, it changes a lot faster too.
Possibly. For a shout out if people have got any good AI podcasts that they found. I'm always on the lookout for consuming those, which is great. But I think, ultimately podcasts from an evergreen point of view are super important as well, because you can have issues that people are going to be discussing, researching, or AI will be able to pick it up and analyze it, no doubt. So I think you can have like a longer footprint rather than versus a social media post, which is, it's gone very quickly over time. Podcasts will sit on Spotify and YouTube and be very discoverable. Yeah,
I agree. I think one of the things I've heard people say is that podcasts you have to be really invested in it. And what if you don't have the time to listen to a full podcast, but want to know what they're saying, like the key elements of it? And I guess this is where AI is great, isn't it? You take the transcript, you stick it into ChatGPT and say, give me the three key takeaways or something like that.
Yes, yeah. Claude is very good for that, for analysing like YouTube video. I know you probably got someone clever than I know, no doubt, understand how to do it with Spotify. But they'll very quickly give you a transcript of a YouTube video, and then just say like, give me the top 5 takeaways that I need to understand what's the most important summary points, and it'll do that already, which is. I do that a lot, and sometimes I make social posts as well off the back of those. Yeah, and
LinkedIn, they can go on for quite some time sometimes, can't they?
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, well, I think it's I don't know. It's like a question for you, because obviously I'm just finalising my own podcast, the T, and thinking, well, how can we be different and be entertaining as well? I think some of the best podcasts that I listen to have some very engaging presenters, but quite innovative formats, rather than people just droning on for an hour or so. It can get quite stale. But what works for you?
Yeah, I think having a really good balance of education and entertainment is really good to keep people's attention. As you say, like, really engaging hosts or whoever it is. And also, or it could just be the content, but also being able to offer some real value to the listeners as well, so they don't feel like it's wasted time. And it also keeps them coming back for more too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think I had some like clear. I was thinking about having a format around some clear takeaways, really, for and basically the podcast, the tea will be very much about areas that you're either gossiping about or what you really need to know is like that. This is what I've heard this week. Can you believe it, sort of thing. So it's like actually giving the consumer some sort of clear, concise takeaways. Okay, this is what we're going to cover. This is why you have to listen, and then leading them through it, rather than some of the podcasts I've done previously when you sat with partners and you basically, sometimes it's basically a sales pitch and it just doesn't work. It's quite dull.
Yeah, I think listeners can sniff that out as well, can't they?
Yeah,
the whole sales pitch, and I think they tune out unless it's very compelling and it's done once or twice.
Yeah. I mean, some very good people are very good at that. So that's the direction I'm going to be taking it in, really. And I think equally there's some useful tools like CapCut and Opus Clips, for example, that you can actually segment your podcast up into some viral clips, as it were, and be able to get the word out there. Yeah, so I think that's important too.
Will you have a co-host, or are you doing it on your own?
I'm seeking co-hosts, but I've basically been pulling in sort of people I know within my network. People like Andy Walker is a very funny guy, and just basically just to build my network, really. Yeah.
And like as you were talking about the social media clips. Yeah, I agree. Those are annoyingly really important.
Yes.
Because it's just one more thing to do at the end. But I mean, if you've got a team to help you out, that's great.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it'd be nice, but I did have a team, but now I don't. But now I've got partners that can help with that.
Yeah,
exactly. And just to be able to sort of build it out. And like cadence wise, I guess once a week, I was wanting to do a shorter podcast, basically.
Okay.
And then rolling it out at the end of the week, which I think is the gossip I heard this week, basically from the industry, and then discussing that.
Right. So is it a bit like the word on the street?
Yes, basically. Yeah. I think because I've been going in the direction of AI anyway. For the last 18 months, but now I'm sort of clearly sort of pivoted into AI. And it's been quite interesting on like LinkedIn since then. The amount of people in my network have reached out and going, "Hey, that's interesting. What's going on there?" Or I'm trying to find out more. Or what course should I be doing? Because lots of people are looking to sort of upskill.
Yeah.
Through either interest or fear, it tends to be that's driving that. Which is always a good thing to do, so better yourself. So, one of the things that I'm looking at is like there's a number of courses out there with like MIT and Imperial College London and Cambridge University are doing various sort of short courses paid for. I'm speaking in my network about that. Is that which ones are any good? Am I going to waste a load of time and money there? Is it a good thing to do? And what I had struggled in my old role in agency is that you're just too busy really sometimes to have to. You need some time out just to immerse yourself in a subject area, don't you really? And it's always moving so fast. I think anyone who says they're an AI expert, I'm very skeptical about.
Yeah,
it's just so much to get your head around.
Yeah, and it's always changing at the same time, so to keep up with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something. I mentioned like back in sort of 2007, I pivoted into social media, because on the back of like a PR and marketing career, and that felt like that was moving quite fast. But I mean, this is the next inflection point really, is like AI, and because AI can essentially create AI as well, that it's moving so fast that it's quite a sea change, really. So I think this being able to find, an area to specialize in and focus in on is important as well.
Yeah.
Do it all.
No. No. So you having this podcast, The Tea, it's not your first rodeo because you've been there before with Ecom Insights. Yeah. So what challenges are you anticipating coming up?
Time. I guess it does take a lot of time to invest in a podcast and promote it and taking that on. And just keeping the content fresh. I think over time, that's something I struggled with in the past is, okay, once you've exhausted your black book and pulled in a few favors to get people on the podcast, is how do you keep that hopper of content full is another challenge, really. And then, finding time to promote it and post that. So there's the three sort of areas. Keeping it fresh, keeping it, actually having it stand out versus the crowd is key.
So what are your thoughts and plans for mitigating the risk around these?
Well, with time, AI, it's like research and be able to pull out people. You can actually do outreach with using AI. That's one thing I want to do. I think is hence I was picking quite an innovative, interesting area to focus in on because, like some Matt Edmondson do a great job for podcasts in the world of e-commerce. It's quite saturated. So it's finding that niche and having standing out. And I think that should hopefully make people interested in getting involved. So that's one. And two is be able to sort of promote it after that. And I think hopefully I'm going to get my son involved in that. And he's at university, so he can help out.
Yeah, give him all the social media.
He's better at CapCut and things like that. It's like, yes, I can riff it, but when you've grown up on TikTok, it seems to be like a second nature to a younger audience. Yeah,
for sure, absolutely. Matt, what about from Ecom Insights, looking back at Ecom Insights, and then you're in this space where you're about to start a new podcast. What was a key lesson that you learned that you can bring forward into this new podcast?
I think basically is to invest time in the content to make it actionable and have clear takeaways for the listener to understand very quickly and come out ending of podcast going, what is the value am I getting here? Time is money, and particularly when you're in the world of B2B, there's some very wealthy and very busy people. Why should I spend 30 minutes or more listening to this? So being really clear on it in advance. I think that in the past, sometimes we just cobbled together podcasts with partners and like it's very salesy, like I mentioned before. So it's like, I don't think that worked. Mm-hmm. Whereas you can take time out to build some value beforehand and make sure that the listener has, or the consumer has very clear, actionable insights and understands the value they're getting from a podcast is important.
Yeah, cool. So with those key takeaways, do you list them in the description and the show notes? Is that how you do it so that people have access to that before they start listening?
Yeah, basically. And I think sort of what I plan to do is build up in advance and start building some of the heights and the tea, some of the gossip around these subjects beforehand on social media, and see if we can actually drive some engagement that way. So if people start discussing or debating on LinkedIn or whatever it may be, a subject area, go, okay, well, we'll bottom this out on the podcast, and then you're pulling in listeners in advance.
Yeah, and I guess you could even reach out to those people on LinkedIn and ask them to be a guest on the show if they've got ideas about, or strong opinions about what's going on.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's great, and so that's broadly my plans, really.
I love it. I love it. Matt, I really enjoyed this about talking about how you're going to be using your podcast to align with your business and to see what's happening out there, the word on the street or the tea. It sounds really fun.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Before we go, though, where can people connect with you, learn more about Dragonfly AI, and of course, tune into the new podcast come April?
Yeah, so Dragonfly AI, dragonflyai.co is the company. And do check them out. Visual analytics, so you can scan 89% of accuracy of the human eye of any content. So there's really some video on the website. Do check that out. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Matt Anderson, as well, or matt.anderson at dragonfly.co.
Perfect. And for everyone listening, I'll drop all the links in the description so you can check them out. Matt, thanks again for sharing. Really appreciate your time.
Excellent. No problem at all. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And to everyone listening, if today's conversation has got you thinking about how podcasting could help you grow your business, I would love to talk. So from Matt and from me, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.